Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody. With the growth of information and communication technology, there is a need to develop a large and complex software. Further, those software should be platform independent, internet enabled, easy to modify, secure, and robust. To meet this requirement, object-oriented paradigm has been developed, and based on this paradigm, the Java programming languages emerges as the best programming environment. Now, Java programming language is being used for mobile programming, internet programming, and many other applications compatible to distributed systems. So this course aims to cover the essential topics of Java programming so that we can improve our skills to cope with the current demand of IT industries and solve many problems in their own field of studies. So I am going to cover the history of Java, then features of Java, object-oriented programming characteristics. Siva already covered what is JDK, what is JVM, then how to write a simple Java program. What are the primitive data types are available in Java? What is variable? How it is declared? Then what is array? How it is created in Java? What is constant? How it is declared? Then what do you mean by type conversion and casting? What are the operators are available in Java? Then various types of state condition. Then the object-oriented content, what is class, what is instance variable, what is instance vector. The history of Java, Java's lineage. Java is related to C++, which is a direct descendant of C. So much of the character of Java is inherited from C and C++. From C, Java derives its syntax. So many of the Java's object-oriented features were influenced by C++. In fact, several of Java's defining characteristics comes from or are responses to the predecessor, that is C and C++. Then the creation of Java. So Java was conceived by James Gosling, Patrick Norton, Chris Watt, Ed Frank, Sweden at Sun Microsystem in 1991. Actually, it took 18 months to develop the first working version. So the language was originally called Oak, but at that time some other language was called by this name. So it was renamed and called Java in 1995. So between the initial implementation of Oak in the year 1992 and the public announcement of Java in 1995, so many more people contributed to the design and the evaluation of the language. Okay. These are the important features of Java, that is the Java buzzwords. So the first one is simple. Actually, Java is very simple. Simple means easy to learn. So it was designed to be easy for a professional programmer to learn and use effectively. So assuming that we have some experience. So we will not find Java hard to master. If we already understand the basic concept of object-oriented programming, learning Java will be even easier. Second one, Java is 100% secure. So as we are like every time we download a normal program in internet, we are taking a risk because the code we are downloading might contain some virus. So these at the core of the problem is the fact that malicious code can cause damage because it has gained unauthorized access to system resources. For example, a virus program might gather private information such as credit card number, bank account balance, password, etc. So in order for Java to enable applet, Java support there are two types of program. One is application program and another one is applet program. Application program is an ordinary program. That program is compiled by using the JavaC compiler and executed by Java interpreter. But applet is related to internet programming. It needs web browser for its execution. Okay, so in order for Java to enable applet to be downloaded and executed on the client computer safely, so it was necessary to prevent an applet from launching such as attack. Then Java is portable. Portability is the most aspect of internet because there are many different types of computer and operating system connected to the internet. So we cannot force anybody to use the particular operating system or particular computer, particular machine. So anybody can use any computer, any operating system. So if a Java program were to be run on a virtually any computer connected to the internet, there needed to be some way to enable that program to execute on different system. So in the case of an applet, the same applet must be able to be downloaded and executed by the wide variety of CPUs, wide variety of operating system, and the wide variety of browser connected to the internet. That is Java HU, write once, run anywhere. Then Java is 100% object-oriented programming language. So C++ is partially structured programming and partially object-oriented programming. C++ is structured programming, but it supports some object-oriented concepts. But Java is 100% object-oriented programming language. So here we consider everything as an object. So Java supports some primitive data types. Java supports 8 primitive data types, even though it supports some wrapper classes. So wrapper classes are encapsulated with the primitive data types. So if a language is 100% object-oriented programming, it considers everything as an object. So primitive type, the wrapper classes is equivalent to the primitive data types. Wrapper classes are encapsulated with the primitive data types. Then robust. The multi-platform environment of the web places extraordinary demands on a program because the program must execute reliably in a variety of systems. The ability to create robust program was given a high priority in the design of Java. So to gain reliability, Java restricts us in a few key areas in forces to find our mistakes early in the program development. So at the same time, Java forces us from having to worry about many of my common causes of programming errors because Java is strictly typed language. So there are two categories of language. Some languages are weakly typed, some other languages are strictly typed. Java is a strictly typed language. So without declaring variable, we cannot use variables. But in VB, Visual Basic Language, we can use variable without declaration. So it check every code at compile time. So however, it also check our code at runtime also. So to better understand how Java is robust, there are two reasons for program failure. One is memory management mistake and another one is mishandled exception conditions. So Java handles these two problems efficiently. So memory management can be a difficult, tedious task in traditional programming environment. For example, in C and C++, the programmer must mutually allocate and free all dynamic memory. So in C and C++, we can allocate memory using malloc new operator, and we can free the memory with the help of some operators. So this sometimes leads to problem because programmers will either forget to free memory that has been previously allocated, or was try to free some memory that another part of their code is still using. So Java virtually eliminates this problem by managing memory allocation and deallocation for us. Java support garbage collection facilities. Java provide garbage collection facility. Second problem is exception, mishandled exception. So Java provide one better exception handling mechanism. It provide some keywords for handling exception. So exception means the runtime error. So we can handle the exception with the help of exception handling mechanism. So Java provide 5 keywords for handling exception: try, catch, throw, throws, finally. So try keyword is used for monitoring exception. Catch block is used for handling exception. Then throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception. Throws keyword is used to identify a method, whether that method throws an exception or not. Then final block is executed in all circumstances, whether an exception is thrown or not. So next feature is multi-threaded. So Java was designed to meet the real world requirement of creating interactive networked program. So Java support multi-threaded programming, which allows us to write that do many things simultaneously. So it's like a multitasking. So Windows operating system is a multitasking environment. So just like multitasking, Java support to create a multi-threaded programming. Multitasking is a heavyweight process, but multi-threading is a lightweight process. Multitasking uses a different address space for different programs, but multi-threading uses same address space for all different tasks. So there is a difference between multitasking and multi-threading. So the Java runtime system comes with an elegant yet sophisticated solution for multi-process synchronization that enable us to construct smoothly running interactive system. So Java's easy to use approach to multi-threading allows us to think about the specific behavior of our program, not the multitasking system. So next feature is architecture neutral. So that is platform independent. So the objective for developing this language Java is the platform independent. So Java achieved this platform independent with the help of Java virtual machine. So a central issue for the Java designers was that of code longevity and portability. So one of the main problem facing programmer is that no guarantee exists that if you write program today, it will run tomorrow, even on the same machine. Because the operating system upgrade, processor upgrade, and the changes in core system resources can all combine to make a program malfunction. So the Java designer made several hard decisions in the Java language and the JVM in an attempt to alter this situation. So the aim of the Java language was write once, run anywhere and anytime. So to a great extent, the goal was accomplished. Then Java is an interpreted language. So in the programming language, there are two categories of languages. Some languages are compiled and some other languages are interpreted. But Java is both compiled and interpreted language. So compilation means the whole program is converted to the executable code or some other code. But interpreted means the line by line compilation, that is called interpretation. So in Visual Basic, it uses interpreter, but C and C++ are using compiler. So Java is compiled and interpreted language. Java. So Java enables creation of cross-platform program by compiling into interactive representation called Java bytecode. So normally in C and C++, we are writing the source code. The source code means the textual version of a program. If you compile the source code, it will create the execute. But in Java, in different way. If you compile the Java source code, it will create Java bytecode. It's not in executable code. Okay. So the code can be executed on any system that implements the JVM. So the JVM is not platform independent. JVM is platform dependent, but the application we developed using Java is platform independent. Okay. So the most previous attempt at cross-platform solution have done so at the expense of performance. So the Java's bytecode was carefully designed so that it would be easy to translate directly into native machine code for very high performance with the help of JIT compiler. So Java runtime system that provide this feature lost none of the benefits of platform independent code. So then Java is distributed. So Java is designed for the distributed environment of the internet because it handles various protocols like TCP/IP. So accessing a resource using a URL is not much different from accessing a file. So Java also support one important feature that is called remote method invocation, RMI. So this feature enable a program to invoke a method across a network. The last feature is dynamic. So Java programs carry with them substantial amount of runtime type information that is used to verify and resolve access to object at runtime. So this makes it possible to dynamically encode in a safe and expedient manner. So this is crucial to the robustness of Java environment in which small fragments of bytecode may be dynamically updated on a runtime. Okay, these are the important features of Java. Java is a simple language. It is 100% secure language. It is portable, so it achieves the right ones run anywhere. Java is 100% object-oriented programming. Without class, we cannot write any program in Java. In C++, without creating a class, we can write program. Java is support to develop a very robust programs. Java support to develop a multi-threaded programming. Java is architecture neutral. It is platform independent. Java is an interpreter language. Java is both compiled and interpreter language. So here we use the two tools. One is Java C and another one is Java. Java C means Java compiler. Java is an interpreter. Then Java is so through this interpretation, Java achieved high performance. So Java is distributed. Java is used to develop a distributed programming. Java is 100% dynamic programming. Okay. So Java is 100% object-oriented programming. We know. So what are the characteristics of object-oriented programming? So there are 4 important characteristics of object-oriented programming. So first one is abstraction. So abstraction means the essential characteristic of an object. So Java is 100% object-oriented programming. What is object? Object means the real world entity. It represents one particular thing. For example, in the banking domain, account is an object, customer is an object, loan is an object. So we consider everything the object. For example, in the college domain, student is an object, courses are running under the college. So every course is an object, faculty is an object, attendance is an object, so result is an object. So we consider everything is an object. So object is a real world entity to represent one particular thing. So the essential characteristic of an object-oriented programming, an essential element of object-oriented programming is abstraction. So human manage complexity through abstraction. For example, people do not think of a car as a set of tens of thousands of individual parts. They think of it as a well-defined object with its own unique behavior. So this abstraction allows people to use a car to drive to grocery store without being overwhelmed by the complexity of the parts that form the car. They can ignore the details of how the engine, transmission and braking system work. Instead, they are free to utilize the object as a. So a powerful way to manage abstraction is through the use of hierarchical classification. So this allows us to layer the semantics of complex system, breaking them into more manageable pieces. So from the outside, car is a single object. Once inside, we see that the car consists of several subsystems: steering, brake, sound system, seat belting, heating, cellular phone, and so on. So in turn, some of the subsystem is made up of more specialized units. For example, sound system consists of a radio, CD player, tape player. So the point is that we manage the complexity of the car through the use of hierarchical abstraction. So in object-oriented programming, abstraction is in higher level, but in structured programming, abstraction is in lower level. So abstraction is not only the characteristics of object-oriented programming, it also the characteristics of structured programming also. So if a language support to create a user-defined data types, then that language has abstraction. So in C++, we can define a user-defined data type, a union, structure, etc. So C and C++ also support abstraction. Okay. The second one is encapsulation. So the wrapping up of data and the function in a single unit, that is called encapsulation. The wrapping up of data and the function in a single unit, that is called encapsulation. So in the procedural-oriented programming, so that is non-object-oriented programming. So data is in some location and the function is in another location. So they are in different location. But in object-oriented programming, data and the function in a single unit. So that is called encapsulation. So encapsulation means the wrapping up of data and the function in a single unit. So it is a mechanism that binds together code and the data it manipulates, and it keep both safe from outside interference and misuse. So one way to think of encapsulation is protective wrapper that prevent the code and data from being arbitrarily accessed by other code defined outside the wrapper. So access to the code and data inside the wrapper is tightly controlled through a well-defined interface. So to relate this to the real world, consider automatic transmission of an automobile. It encapsulates hundreds of bits of information about our engine, such as how much we are accelerating, the picture surface we are on, and the position of the shift lever. So we, the user, have only one method of affecting the complex encapsulation by moving the gear shift lever. We cannot affect the transmission by using the turn signal or the windshield wiper. Thus, the gear shift lever is the well-defined interface to transmission. So the example in Java, the basis of encapsulation is the class. So data and function in a single unit, that is called class. So once a class is defined, we can create any number of objects. So a class defines a structure, and that is a data and code. So that will be shared by a set of objects. So each object of a given class contains the structure and the behavior defined by the class. So for example, bank account is one class. It contains the balance. Balance is a data, withdraw, deposit, or the behavior or the member function. So once a class is defined, we can create a number of that class. So objects are instances of a class. A class is a logical construct. An object has a physical reality. A class is a template, but object is a variable. A class is a data type. An object is a instance. Object is a variable. So when we write a class, we will specify the code and the data that constitute that class. Collectively, these elements are called members of the class. Data members and the member function. The data defined by the class are referred to as member variables or instance variables. So in a class contained, there are two types of variables. One is instance variable and another one is static variables. Instance variables are related to object. Static variables are related to class. So in a class, we can declare both instance variable and static variable. Suppose we are creating 10 objects from the particular class, then 10 instance variables are allocated for that. That means every object has its own instance variable, but static variable is common. Only one is allocated, and it is shared by all objects. So in the classroom, board is a static variable. Notebook is an instance variable. So every student has a notebook, but board is common for all students. So board is an instance. Board is a static variable. The code that operate on the data is referred to as member method or function. So are just called as member function. So through this function, we can access the instance variable. So the purpose of a class is to encapsulate complexity. There are mechanisms for hiding the complexity of the implementation inside the class. So each method or variable in a class may be marked as private or public. So private variable or private method can be accessed from within the class. Public variable, public method can be accessed from any pair. So in C++, a class is divided into 3 sections: private section, public section, protected section. So in Java, there is no section. Here we are using the modifier. So here we are using class modifier, constructor modifier, variable modifier, and method modifier. Okay. Then another characteristic is inheritance. So inheritance means the process of creating new classes from the existing classes. So that is one of the important feature of code reusability. We can reuse our existing code. So inheritance is a process by which one object acquires the properties of another object. So this is important because it supports the concept of hierarchical classification. So the most knowledge is made manageable by the hierarchical classification. So so here one class can inherit from another class. So the topmost class is called as super, and the derived class is here. The derived class is called a subclass. So in C++ we called as base and derived class, but here we say super and subclass. The base class is called as superclass, and the derived class is called as subclass. So subclass inherit the behavior from its superclass. So generally there are 5 types of inheritance: single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, hybrid inheritance. So single inheritance means a class is derived from only one superclass. So in a single inheritance, only one superclass and only one subclass. Second one is multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance means a class is derived from more than one superclasses. A class is derived from more than one superclasses. But in Java does not support multiple inheritance using classes, but it supports multiple inheritance via interfaces. Because multiple inheritance creates ambiguity error in C++. So Java avoid this inheritance, multiple inheritance. Third one is multi-level. Multi-level inheritance means a subclass which is derived from subclass. A subclass which is derived from another subclass. That is called multi-level inheritance. So Java support multi-level inheritance. Then hierarchical inheritance means more than one subclasses are derived from only one superclass. That is called hierarchical inheritance. Then hybrid inheritance. That inheritance means the combination of any two inheritance, that is called as hybrid inheritance. So Java support inheritance. Then polymorphism. Polymorphism means the one thing in more than one form. So in C++, it supports polymorphism. We know operator overloading and the function overloading. In C++, function overloading and operator overloading are under polymorphism. So that is also called as static type polymorphism. Java support dynamic type polymorphism also. So here polymorphism is a feature that allows one interface to be used for a general class of action. The specific action is determined by the exact nature of the situation. So for example, consider a stack class. So stack we know last in first out basis. So we might have a program that require 3 types of stack. One stack is used for integer values, and one is for floating point values, and another one is for characters. So the algorithm that implement each stack is the same, even though the data being stored differ. So in structured programming, in non-object oriented language, we would be required to create 3 different set of stack, with each set using a different name: stack 1, stack 2, stack 3. However, because of polymorphism in Java, we can specify a general set of stack routine that all share the same name. So more generally, the concept of polymorphism is often expressed as the phrase one interface, multiple method. So this means that it's possible to design generic interface to a group of related activities. So this will reduce complexity by allowing interface to be used to specify a general class of action. So these 4 are the characteristics of object-oriented programming. The first one is abstraction. Abstraction means the essential characteristics of an object. Encapsulation means the wrapping up of data and function in a single unit. So the example for abstraction encapsulation is class. So inheritance means the process of creating a new classes from the existing classes. New classes are called as subclasses, and the existing classes are called as superclasses. Polymorphism means one thing in more than one form. So in Java, implement this concept through the method overloading, function overloading. Here there is no operator overloading. In C++, it supports operator overloading. So Java does not support operator overloading. Java only supports function overloading. There is method overloading, constructor overloading, etc. Okay. So JVM. So JVM means Java Virtual Machine. It's an abstract machine. So it is specification that provide runtime environment in which Java bytecode can be executed. So JVMs are available for many hardware. I already told the JVM is platform dependent. So different JVMs are available for different operating system. So JVMs are available for many hardware and software platform. So JVM is platform dependent, but the application we developed using Java is platform independent. So JDK. So JDK is a software development environment used for developing Java applications and applet. I already told Java support two types of program. One is application program and another one is applet program. So application program are executed by Java compiler and compiled by the Java C compiler and executed by Java interpreter. Applet programs are compiled by Java C compiler and executed by the applet viewer. Is a special tool for executing applets. So the JDK includes the Java runtime environment and the interpreter, loader, then compiler, that is Java C, then an archiver, Java archiver, a document generated, that is Java DOC, and other tools needed in Java development. So how to write a simple Java program? So writing your first Java program. Here, class space, then class name. So within the class, I define one function, main function, public, static, void main, string a array, system.out.println. So system.out.println is a console output statement. So it will print a simple application on the command prompt. Here in C++, the main function has so many format. We can use void main, int main, main with arguments, main without arguments. So without specifying return type also we can use. So the default return type is integer. But in Java, the only standard format is public, static, void, main. And the main function accepts argument of type string array. So here public statics are modifiers. So these are the functions modifiers or method modifier. Main function is public function, so that it can be accessed from outside the class. Suppose this function is default, so it cannot be accessed from some other package. It can be only accessed from within the package. So in C++, the section is private. But here Java has in default section has some rules and some rules. In default variable, default method can be accessed from within the package. It cannot be accessed from other. So public variables, public methods can be accessed from outside the class. So main function is declared with the public modifier. Second one, static. I already told in class contain there are two types of members. There are two types of data member and there are two types of member function also. So one is instance data member, instance method, and another one is static data member, static method. So instance, I already told, a class contain one instance variable and one static member. Suppose 10 objects are created from that class, 10 object has its own instance variable. But the static variable only one is allocated for all objects. So that static variables are shared by all objects. So it is not unique. Like that, in this function, instant function is related to object. Instant function can be invoked with the help of object. We cannot invoke instant function without creating objects. So the way of creating instant function is object name dot function name, object name dot method name. But static function, so we can invoke the static function without creating objects. So the syntax, the format for invoking static function is class name dot method name. So here static function, so need static function does not need object for invoking this. Okay. So here the main function is static. The main function is the first executable function. So before that we cannot create any object. So this function is declared as static. Next one is void. Void means the function does not return any value. So it is declared, the return type is void. Then the name of the function is main. So system is a Java's built-in class. Out is an instance member of the out is a static member of the system class. Println is a method of the out instance. Okay, so we invoke the println method using system.out.println. Out is a static static member of the system class. Println is a method of out class. The comment. So in Java support, there are 3 types of comments. So comments, well, first one is single line comment, then another one is multi-line comment, and third one is documentation. So Java C++ it support only 2 types of comments. One is a single line command and another one is multi-line comment. So this is a command line. The most programming language is Java. Let us enter a remark into a programming source code. The contents of your comments are ignored by the compiler. So a command describe or explain the operation of the program to anyone who is reading its source code. So single line commands start with // and multi-line command start with /* and end with */. So third one is another one important one is documentation command. So the documentation part is stored in a separate file, not in Java source file. So this is special comments in Java. Right. Next, the primitive data types. So Java support actually 8 primitive types. I already told the primitive types means the basic data types. Data types, there are 3 types of data types. One is primitive types, derived type, and another one is user-defined data type. So there are 3 categories of data type: primitive types, derived types, user-defined types. Primitive types means a language provide that type. So Java provide 8 basic data types under 4 categories. In integer category, it support 4 data types. Then in floating point, in a real type category, it support 2 data types. One is float and another one is double. Then the character category, it support char. Then Boolean, it support Boolean data types. In C++, there is no Boolean data type, but Java support Boolean data type also. Okay. So in integer data type, this group include byte, short, int, long. So which are for whole valued single numbers. So these are signed positive and negative values. So Java does not support unsigned positive only integers. So many other computer languages support signed and unsigned integers. So Java support both positive and negative values. So the width of the integral type should not be thought of the amount of storage it consumes, but rather as a behavior defined for variables and the expression of that data type. So Java runtime environment is free to use whatever size it wants, as long as the types behave as we declared. The width and range of the integer long data type width is 64. That is the byte, 64 byte. That is 64 bit. That is 8 byte. The size of integer data type int data type is 32 bits. That is 4 bytes. The size of short data type is 16 bits. That is 2 bytes. The size of byte data type is 1 byte. That is the smallest integral type is byte. So it is 8-bit data type. So we can store the value range from -128 to +127. So short, int, long. Then second one is float. In floating point, the type float specifies a simple precision value that uses a 32-bit of storage. So simple precision is faster on some processor and takes half as much space as double precision, but will become imprecise when the value are either very large or very small. So variable of type float are useful when we need a fractional component. Okay, then double precision denoted by the double keyword. It uses 64-bit to store a value. It is actually faster than single precision on some modern processor. So that has been optimized for high-speed mathematical calculation. So all transcendental mathematical functions such as sine, cos, square root return only double values. So java.lang package support one class math. So the math class contains the mathematical related functions. So this class provides some mathematical function. That function returns double values. Then character, char. In Java, data types used to store characters is char. However, C and C++, character is, in C and C++, the size of the character is 1 byte. But in Java, the size is 2 bytes. That is 16 bits. C and C++ uses ASCII code character set, but Java uses Unicode to represent character. So Unicode defines a fully international character set so that we can represent all of the characters found in all human languages. Then another one is Boolean. So Java has a primitive type called Boolean for logical values. So it can have only one of the two possible values, either true or false. So that is the type returned by the relational operator. Okay. So these 8 data types are provided by Java language under 4 categories: integer, float, character, Boolean. In integer category, there are 4 data types: byte, short, int, long. In float category, there are 2 data types. One is float and another one is double. In the character category, one data type there is char. So Java uses Unicode. The size of the char data type is 2 bytes. Then Boolean. The Boolean is used to store either true or false. Okay. Then what is variable? So what is variable? How it is declared and initialized? So the variable is the basic unit of storage in a Java program. It is defined by the combination of an identity, a type, an optional initializer. So all variables have a scope which define their visibility and lifetime. So how to declare a variable? In Java, all variables must be declared before they can be used, because already I told Java is strongly typed language. So we can use variables after declaration. So we cannot use variable without declaration. So some languages are weak typed languages. So in that language we can use variable without declaration. Okay. So here the basic form of a variable declaration is data type, then identifier. So for example, suppose we want to declare the variable a of type integer, then we use int space a semicolon. So here a is a variable of type integer. So the type is one of the Java's atomic types, or the name of the class or interface. Okay. So the identifier is the name of the variable. So we can initialize a variable by specifying an equal sign and a value. Suppose we want to initialize a variable, we can initialize with the help of equal sign, int a equal to 10. So here a is a variable with the value 10. So we can dynamic initialization is also possible in Java. So Java allows variable to be initialized dynamically using any expression valid at the time the variable is declared. Okay, suppose A equal to area equal to 3.14 into R pi r square. So here we are calculating area of circle. So this is dynamic initialization. Then the scope and lifetime of the variable. So all the variable we have to declare the start of the main function. So Java allows a variable to be declared within any block also. A block is began with an opening curly brace and entered by closing curly brace. So a block defines a scope. Each time we start, so each time we start a new block, we are creating a new scope. So a scope determines what are visible to other part of our program. It also determines the lifetime of these objects. So many other programming languages define only two general categories of scope. One is global scope and another one is local scope. So however, these traditional scope do not fit well with the Java's strict object-oriented model. So it is possible to create what amount to be a global scope. It is by far the exception, not the rule. So in Java, two major scopes are those defined by a class and those defined by a method. So a variable which is declared inside a class has a scope, class scope. A variable which is declared inside a method has a scope, method scope. The class scope has several unique properties and attributes that do not apply to the scope defined by a method. So this distinction makes some sense. So because of the difference, a class scope means the scope defined by the method begins with the opening curly brace. However, if that method has parameter, they too are included within the method scope. So general scope variable declared inside a scope are not visible to code that it is defined outside the scope. So when we declare a variable within the scope, we are localizing that variable and protecting it from unauthorized access and modification. The scope rules provide the foundation for encapsulation. The scopes can be nested. So each time we create a block of code, we are creating a new nested scope. So when this occurs, the outer scope encloses the inner scope. This means the object declared in the outer scope will be visible to the code within the inner scope. However, the reverse is not true. So object declared within the inner scope will not be visible outside it. So there are two important scope and lifetime of variable in Java. One is class scope and another one is method scope. Then constant. Variable, it can be changed during the execution of a program, but constant, it cannot be changed during the execution of a program. So in C++, we can declare constant using const keyword, but in Java, we can declare constant variable using the final variable modifier. Suppose we want to define a constant pi, so we can declare constant variable using the syntax final float pi equal to 3.14f. Final float pi pi equal to 3.14f. Here pi is a constant. So this constant cannot be changed during the execution of a program. So the constant variables are declared with the final variable cannot be changed. Final variable cannot be modified during the execution of a program. So how it is declared? Final, then data type, then constant name, constant variable name equal to some value. For example, final int a equal to 10. Here A is a final variable with a value 10. Then type conversion. In type conversion, there are two types of conversion. In C++ also, two types of conversion. Here also two types of conversion. One is automatic conversion and another one is narrowing conversion. So conversion means converting one data type to another data type. So automatic conversion means converting the large data type, converting the small data type to large data type. So when one type of data is assigned to another type of variable, an automatic type conversion will take place if if the conditions, the two types are compatible, then the destination type is larger than source type. So in these two cases, the first one is the two types are compatible. The second one is the destination type is larger than the source type. So in these two cases, automatic conversion is taken. So automatic conversion means converting one data type into another data type. So for suppose, for example, I am converting a byte to integer value. So the size of the byte is 1 byte. The size of the integer data type is 4 bytes. So it is automatic conversion because it converts the small data type into larger data type. Here the destination type is larger than the source type. So it is automatic conversion. It is also called as widening conversion. Next one is narrowing conversion. Narrowing conversion means converting the large data type into small data type. Here we have some values. So this narrowing conversion will not be performed automatically. Suppose, for example, I am converting the integer data type to byte. The size of integer is 4 byte. The size of byte is 1 byte. So here you are converting the large data type into a small data type. So this conversion will not be performed automatically because a byte is smaller than an int. So this kind of conversion is sometimes called a narrowing conversion. Since we are explicitly making the value narrower so that it will fit into the target type. So to create a conversion between the two compatible types, we must use casting. A casting is a simply an explicit type conversion. So it has one general format, that is within the bracket. Within the bracket, we can specify the data type, then value. So for example, int a byte b equal to int a I'm declaring a variable int a, then float, byte b. The first one is a equal to b. The second one is b equal to a. Okay. Here, there are two types of conversion. One is converting byte to integer, and the second one is converting integer to byte. The first one is converting the small data type to large data type, and the second one is converting large data type to small data type. So this conversion need type casting. It is converting the small data type to large data type. It is called automatic conversion. It is called as It is also called as widening conversion. But b equal to a, it is explicit conversion. It need type casting. Type casting means that is a general format is target type, then value. This is the general format of casting incompatible types. So here byte A, the integer value converted into the byte value. Okay. Okay. So type conversion means converting one data type to another data type. So there are two types of conversion. One is automatic conversion and another one is narrowing conversion. Automatic conversion means converting small data type to large data type. Explicit conversion or narrowing conversion means converting large data type into a small data type. So narrowing conversion require type casting. Okay. So operators. So Java support 8 data types. Like that, Java support 8 operators also. So the first one is unary operators. Unary operators means unary increment and unary decrement operator. So unary plus 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 and minus minus, plus plus and minus minus. The plus plus and minus minus are Java's increment operator. So these operators, the increment operator increases its operand by 1. The decrement operator decreases operand by 1. So second one is the arithmetic operator. In arithmetic operator, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, then modulus, percentage. It support. Then assignment operator, it's equal. Unary operator, there are two types. One is plus plus and minus minus. So we can use the unary operators in prefix form and postfix form. Arithmetic operator, there are 5 types of arithmetic operator: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and mod operator. Then assignment operator, equal is an assignment operator. So this operator is used to assign a value to a variable. Then arithmetic assignment operator means plus equal to, minus equal to, star equal to, slash equal to, percentage equal to. This is called arithmetic assignment operator. So the arithmetic operator joins arithmetic and assignment. So for example, A plus equal to B, that means A equal to A plus B. So unary operator, there are two types of unary operator. One is plus plus and another one is minus minus. Unary increment operator, unary decrement operator. Then arithmetic operator, plus, addition, subtraction, multiplication, then division, then mod operator, percentage. Okay. Slash operator return the quotient, percent operator return the remainder. Okay, for integer division. Then assignment operator is equal. A equal to 10. Here the value 10 is assigned to the variable A. So this is called as assignment operator. Then arithmetic assignment operator means plus equal to, minus equal to, star equal to, slash equal to, then percentage equal to. That means A plus equal to B, that is equal to A equal to A plus. Like that we can use other types of variable. Suppose A minus equal to B means A equal to A minus B. A star equal to B, that means A equal to A star B. Okay. Then arithmetic assignment, then relational operator. Less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal. There is exclamation mark, equal. So like what are the operators used in C++? The same type of operators are used in Java also. Okay. So less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to. So logical operators, ampersand, double ampersand and double R symbol, that is pipe symbol, and operator and or operator. Then bitwise operator, bitwise unary, not operator, bitwise and operator, bitwise or operator, then exclusive or operator, then right shift with zero fill, left shift, then bitwise AND assignment operator, bitwise OR assignment operator, bitwise exclusive OR assignment operator, then right assignment, left assignment, right assignment zero, right zero fill assignment, left zero fill assignment. So these are under bitwise operator. Then another one is conditional operator. Question mark colon is a conditional operator. So we are going to see only two programs. So first one is write a Java program to find the area of circle, and the second one is write a Java program to find the largest number of given two numbers using conditional operator. So I am using the notepad and the command prompt. Simple program, class area public static void main. Okay. I declare a variable integer radius, then float area. I declare the variable. I declare two variables. One is R and another one is area. Giving input through the command line argument. So the command line argument of type string. So we want to convert the string data type into integer type. So wrapper class, integer is a wrapper class. This class provide one method, static method pass int. This method convert string into integer type. So here are integer dot pass int of a of 0. Then I calculate the area. Area equal to 3.14 f pi into R pi r square. Then I will print the area using the command using system.out.println statement. That is area equal to plus area. This is a simple program for calculating area of circle. So here in C++ we can define the main function outside the class. So in C++ we can write program without using class. But in Java is 100% object-oriented programming language. So main function is also defined within the class. Okay, here class space area, then public static. Public function can be accessed from outside the class. Static function is related to class, not an object, so that it can be invoked without creating object. Void function, that function does not return any value. The name of the function is main function. Then it accepts array of arguments of type string. So I save this program. I save this program in D. The folder Java training. Name is area.java. Area.java. Then I open the command prompt. The program is in D prompt, Java training. So I compile this program Java C area.java. So Java here, the Java C is not recognized as an internal external command. So there is no path to JDK. So I am going to set a path C program files Java JDK bin. So here Java C is here, Java is here. So I set the class path to this. So set path equal to, so set path is a DOS command. So I compile the Java program, Java C area.java. Okay. Here public. So I compile this program using the compiler Java C. So integer spelling mistake. Okay. Then I execute the program using Java interpreter, that is Java area. Then one command and argument, the radius of the circle 10. So the output here area equal to 314.0. Okay. So this is a simple program to calculate an area of circle. Okay. So today class I covered history of Java, then features of Java, then object-oriented programming characteristics. That means what is abstraction, what is encapsulation, then what is inheritance, what do you mean by polymorphism, then what is JDK, what is JVM, and how to write a simple Java program, what is a format of main function, then how many data types are provided by Java. So there are 8 data types are provided by Java. Then what is variable? So how it is declared. Here the variable, here I use 2 variables. One is R and another one is area. Okay. So data type, then variable name. Then what is constant? How it is declared? Constants are declared with the help of final modifier. So final variable is constant. It cannot be changed during the execution of program. Then what is type conversion and the casting? So in Java there are 2 types of conversion. One is automatic conversion and another one is uh, narrowing conversion. That is, one is widening conversion, another one is narrowing conversion. One is implicit conversion, another one is explicit conversion. So explicit conversion require type casting. Okay. Then what are the operators provided by Java? Java support 8 different types of operators. So union operators, arithmetic operator, assignment operator, arithmetic assignment operator, the relational operator, logical operator, bitwise operator, then conditional operator. Conditional operator means question mark code. Okay, thank you. Any doubt?